What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking our top 5 wide receiver breakouts for the 2021 fantasy football season. So make sure to tune in. If you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe. Let us hear it in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree? Who else would you put in this category? And if you have any other questions, this is the place to ask them. We'll make sure to answer them all. And lastly, check us out online at alldaypigskin.com. And while you're there, get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Everything you can want at a great price. Details are in the description. But with that being said, let's get into it. And you can see here we've got our list of wide receiver ranks and ADPs pulled up. A quick note, this is PPR based. But with that being said, we can get into it. And kicking off our list, we have got one CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys, and this is probably going to be the most common name in terms of wide receiver breakouts that you're going to see for the 2021 season. But when you think about it, I mean, it makes sense. CeeDee Lamb was regarded as potentially the best overall wide receiver from last year's rookie wide receiver draft class. He goes to Dallas, where, he was having a pretty good season with Dak, who, by the way, was on pace for, between 6,000 to 7,000 yards passing. Not saying it's going to happen again this season, but, basically the passing upside is there for this offense. And Lamb, yes, he was the number 2 wide receiver behind Amari Cooper, but immediately, he became the number 2 guy ahead of Michael Gallup. And as a rookie, even without Dak Prescott, once Dak went down, he still got over 900 yards receiving. That's really, really impressive when you consider the quarterback carousel that the Dallas Cowboys had. And now with, Amari Cooper having missed some time being on the PUP list, CeeDee Lamb, his stock has been going up and up and up. And I really do think that on most teams, the guy is an unquestioned wide receiver 1. And I think he's really going to challenge Amari Cooper for that role as well. And to me, this is the type of offense that can sustain 2, top 10, top 15 at worst case type of wide receivers. But I think slowly, CeeDee Lamb is going to edge out Amari Cooper, who, he has some consistency issues, has a tendency to kind of get a little bit nicked up as well. I really, really like CeeDee Lamb to potentially become the wide receiver 1 in Dallas by the end of the 2021 fantasy football season. You see him here. In fact, he's ranked above Amari Cooper. Now, I do have him right on par with Amari Cooper. I think, unless Cooper, he misses some time, I think it's probably smart to have them pretty close to each other. But either way, Lamb going into his second season, much more comfortable, and he's got somebody like an Amari Cooper opposite him to take away coverages. This Dallas offense kind of transitioning to a pass-first type of team. I like the way this is set up for CeeDee Lamb. He's kind of going towards, the end of the 3rd round. In terms of value, that's probably pretty appropriate. And a lot of people, again, have him as a potential top 10 wide receiver, period. Not quite as bullish on that, but I do believe that he can be a top 15 guy and be in the wide receiver 1 category. So CeeDee Lamb, kind of, in my opinion, has to be the poster child when it comes to 2021 fantasy wide receiver breakouts. But let's move on here to the number 21 wide receiver on this list in Deontay Johnson of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He kind of showed us a little bit last season and gave us that little aperitif in terms of showing you what he has to potentially being the number 1 wide receiver in Pittsburgh. Outplayed, Juju Smith-Schuster, who's almost an afterthought at this point in time. Chase Claypool could honestly, another sophomore wide receiver could also be on this list. But I specifically picked Deontay Johnson because I think he has the highest upside. Yes, some people are going to say, well, he's got, issues with drops, but guess what? Big Ben, the Steelers, they keep going to Deontay Johnson. I think he has the highest upside out of all those wide receivers, who I would rank, starting with Deontay Johnson, then with Chase Claypool, and then with Juju Smith-Schuster. I think Deontay Johnson belongs in the top 20 wide receivers for sure. Again, I think he's somebody that's going to benefit from the fact that the Steelers are going to probably be a pass-heavy team because their offensive line isn't the best. So they can only run it down the throat of opponents so long until they have to start airing out the football. And Deontay Johnson was the favorite last year. I think he's going to be the favorite this year. Now, a question is, how much does Big Ben have left in the tank? And even though he is declining, I think he's still good enough to have Deontay Johnson relevant. And I mean, that was the case last season. Even when Big Ben was struggling, Deontay Johnson was still the wide receiver for the Steelers to own. And that's what I'm banking on here again. I think he's a little bit more reliable than a Chase Claypool, who's maybe a little bit more touchdown dependent. I like the big play upside of Deontay Johnson. I have him as a high-end wide receiver too, and I could definitely see him kind of challenging to be a low-end wide receiver one. He's going in the 4th, 5th round, depending on the size of your leagues. That is an absolute steal in my opinion. And Deontay Johnson is definitely somebody that to some extent does have risk, but I think the upside far outweighs the risk in this case. So for that reason, Deontay Johnson is going to be somebody that I am looking to roster in the 4th, 5th round of fantasy football drafts. Now, continuing to move on here, we get to T. Higgins, the 3rd overall wide receiver on our list. Comes in 28th overall. And, right now, maybe a little bit unfairly so, but T. Higgins kind of has become an afterthought after the drafting of Jamar Chase in the 1st round by the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm not saying that Jamar Chase won't eventually become the number 1 wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals, but, there's something to be said about an adjustment period. And T. Higgins, well, he's more familiar with Joe Burrow. He's more familiar with this offense. And I think what matters most here is he's a lot cheaper than Jamar Chase usually. Here you see that he is 28th overall, Jamar Chase 24th overall. I see Higgins sometimes go a round and a half or 2 later than Jamar Chase, which shouldn't be the case. I take T. Higgins above Jamar Chase. I think he's an incredible sleeper that people are overlooking because, again, you got the Chase to Joe Burrow connection. He was an early round pick above an offensive lineman, which I still don't understand. And look, even if Jamar Chase, becomes that stud immediately, I think T. Higgins is going to be right there, or worst case, not that far behind from it. And again, I see this Cincinnati offense as one that is going to be very, very pass heavy, which makes me excited for all these wide receivers. But at their current price, it makes me the most excited for T. Higgins. I like his touchdown upside. I like his upside to be the wide receiver 1 on this offense. And I think Joe Burrow is going to have to throw the football a bunch, considering the defense, considering the shaky offensive line as well. So T. Higgins, I think he's basically a discount Jamar Chase, somebody that I have zero problem being my wide receiver 2. And again, another sophomore wide receiver showing you how stacked last year's class of rookie wide receivers really was. I feel really, really good about T. Higgins, somebody there you're going to be getting in like the 6th, 7th type of round in terms of ADP. But let's continue to scroll down here to the 4th name on our list. And we're going to go all the way down to the 50th overall wide receiver in Darnell Mooney. Now, with Anthony Miller gone, but I guess to be honest with you, even if Anthony Miller was still with the Bears, Darnell Mooney, in my opinion, is the 2nd best overall wide receiver on that team. Obviously, it's Allen Robinson and then everybody else, but Darnell Mooney is that next guy up. And look, last season, with a horrific Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles, Darnell Mooney still almost got 100 targets. That's extremely impressive as a rookie wide receiver. I think Mooney has showed that he was a wide receiver that was absolutely, under the radar and a great pick by the Chicago Bears. And even on a team like the Bears, where there is some quarterback question marks, the fact that Darnell Mooney still has this same type of upside is very, very exciting, because what I think is going to happen with the Chicago Bears is I think Andy Dalton, if he starts for the Bears at quarterback, he's going to start at most 3-4 weeks, something like that. Then you're going to see Justin Fields take over. And I think Justin Fields being the quarterback is going to be a very good thing for Darnell Mooney, because with Andy Dalton, I could kind of see Allen Robinson being the main focus point, because, he's kind of going to be a guy where I'm just going to my first option. I'm not going to look at, check down options. I'm not going to look at other wide receivers. I'm just going to pepper Allen Robinson with targets. But Darnell Mooney is very, very talented. He really came on last season. I have question marks about this offensive line. I don't really trust the rushing attack with Matt Nagy taking over play calling duties again. So I really like Darnell Mooney, a guy that's going to be going probably in the double-digit rounds. You see him here ranked 50th overall. I think he should be ranked higher. I do want to mention that. But again, I think he could potentially be that next really good wide receiver for the Chicago Bears. If Allen Robinson leaves after this year, Darnell Mooney, you're going to see him absolutely skyrocket in terms of value for 2022. So I think the skill set is there. I think the situation could be a little bit better, but still, for where you're getting him, Darnell Mooney absolutely, has the type of upside. I think he's only going to get more targets. And if you give me, the wide receiver 50th overall, that's going to have 100 plus targets. Again, he had 98 last year. That is an absolute steal. Major, major breakout potential here for Darnell Mooney. But let's wrap this thing up here with the 56th overall wide receiver in Russell Gage of the Atlanta Falcons. And I know what you're going to say. Russell Gage, the guy's an afterthought. Julio Jones is gone, but it's going to be Kyle Pitts 1,000%. I don't agree with that. I think Kyle Pitts could very well have a great season, but I do believe Russell Gage will be the number 2 wide receiver for the Atlanta Falcons. I think that Russell Gage showed us last season that he can get it done when Julio Jones was hurt and when the Falcons had to rely on him. Everything that I've said about Calvin Ridley, being a big beneficiary of Julio Jones leaving, Russell Gage is just as big of a winner. Obviously, so is Kyle Pitts. All 3 of those guys received a major boost in upside. And this Atlanta offense, it is a pass-heavy offense, pass first as long as Matt Ryan is there. Yes, they've got a new head coach who's coming from Tennessee who will run first. Guess what? The Falcons are not set up like the Tennessee Titans in terms of having that Derrick Henry type of running back, that stud offensive line. And they're a couple years away from that if that's the identity that they want to change to. But this team offensively, they're continuously like top 5 in terms of pass attempts, which means volume-wise, Matt Ryan's going to be throwing the ball a lot, and all these pass catchers are going to have a lot of opportunities. I love the upside for Russell Gage. The guy's going, again, past the double-digit rounds. He might even go undrafted in some leagues where, people aren't paying attention to him. I think he's an absolute great addition, somebody I feel really good about as a flex player, and I think he's going to get very, very close to the 1,000-yard mark. Basically, the Atlanta Falcons offense, I'm just buying the pass catchers. I'm buying all of them. And in terms of ADP, when you look at where Ridley and, Kyle Pitts are going, Russell Gage is the ultimate discount. Give me Russell Gage 10 times out of 10. I love that upside. People are sleeping on him way too much. And again, on this pass-heavy offense, he absolutely has that breakout potential. So he would be somebody that I am targeting. But with that, we wrap up this breakdown of our top 5 wide receiver breakouts for 2021. And as always, let us hear it in the comment section, whether you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, check us out again on alldaypigskin.com. And while you're there, get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Details in the description. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future